Alrighty, here we go. Hey everybody, sorry for the late start. Yeah, it seems compounded. So late, and I don't even have any tea today for my own tea with G. What a horrible thing that is. I make just a quick check here to make sure that the audio is sounding and everybody can hear. Great, fantastic. Wonderful. Let's see. I gotta move this over a bit, get it out of the way of the camera. There it is. Okay, good. So, oh yeah, Brent, are you all right? Oh, you're safer on the east side. Very good, yeah. Anybody else here from Los Angeles area that's being affected? I'm going to check into anybody who might be. It's one of those days when I had no idea what I was going to speak about, but yeah, since you guys already did that for me. I mean, Lisa here said our world is going through some serious shakeups. I find this work for myself more important than ever. Yeah. And I kind of think that it's the reason why this deeply spiritual approach, this deeply spiritual path, has become so universally available now. Remember that the kind of teachings, the kind of conversations we have here, think back long before mass media or even books, maybe some scrolls and things. The vast majority of humanity never heard any of it. If you were fortunate enough to actually have an enlightened being, a guru in your town, you may have encountered it. And also fortunate enough to have been accepted by that guru as a student, and then went through 12 years before you ever actually heard this stuff. The depth of the teachings. That would not be a way that this message and this path could be disseminated that would be very useful in our world today. At the accelerating rate at which so many things are congealing, and it looks like the dark side is going to win. The ubiquitous availability of it is really welcome, and it means that this path to emotional health and spiritual awakening is in fact has been made as short as is possible. You don't require 30 years in a monastery or 12 years under a guru. We need more guidance than just watching videos on YouTube, for sure. But even that is available because we can do this. Right? People are here from all over the world. In my classes, they're from all over the world. And so the facility is here for the depth of this teaching and the healing that it brings and the various different approaches to healing that it brings, the transformation it can bring about in healing modalities that actually renew them, regenerate them, and give them a power and a depth that it is reaching the world. But the way it actually reaches the world, the information's there. It's now available universally. Right? Every major and a lot of minor spiritual books and approaches and paths and practices is now available at your fingertips. And, with phones, it's not just at your fingertips, it's anywhere your fingertips happen to go. It's there. Plus universal communication. What activates it, though, is, of course, the teacher who can guide you through it. But equally important, and I think the real key to the thing, because there'll only be so many teachers, it takes time for a practice system to mature to the point where we can take on that role of guiding others. The thing that's going to do it is the sincerity of everyone who's on the path. So the work that you are doing on yourself, the sincerity and earnestness with which the inquiry is made, with which the courage with which the emotional upheaval and the facing of the traumas and the wounds and the difficulties that life throws at us is in fact the energy that drives the healing and the awakening of the whole world. It isn't just the good teacher. A good teacher isn't a good teacher without good students. I mean, it requires the whole thing. And it is actually my deepest, I call it a belief, but to me it's just a certainty, absolute certainty, that the reason all of this stuff is happening in the world, the upset, the adjustments, the rise of authoritarianism, the lopsided economic systems, but the natural disasters, the deterioration of the environment, the darkness, the greed, the brutality that's seeming to dominate, the fear, the enforcement of story through intimidation and threat, is a reaction to the energy of awakening that has simply said, it is time. It is time. And it has been percolating, leavening, like yeast in the bread. You got to let it rise for a bit. It's not done, right? It's dough, but it's not bread yet. It's got to go in the oven, and we're all in the oven. And I think, I really believe with all my heart, it's a conviction of mine, it's not even a belief, that the only reason all of this rampant evil in the world is happening is because the line is woken up. Consciousness is awakening. And because it is, of course, anyone here, and I think all of you have been through some of the processing of dealing with our own emotional pain, pride, and arrogance, as well as just the wounded child, the whole lot of it. Just in the same way, the sincerity of the inquiry and the energy healing and the various modalities has pushed things to the surface because it was time for you to be free. The same thing is happening universally. And it's going to manifest as things like forest fires and hurricanes and people suddenly losing everything. It's going to appear as oppression, and which is all the material, all the stuff, all the beliefs and assumptions and delusions and illusions being pushed to the surface on their way out. That it is actually the result of the healing process and not just something we have to respond to. The work we're doing is actually forcing this stuff universally. As we do it individually, it gets reflected universally. Everything you do here just adds more fire to the fuel of the dissolution of the false sense of self throughout. Every victory and breakthrough you have makes it just a tiny bit easier for that breakthrough to take place somewhere else. This has actually been demonstrated in a lab by scientists, most notably Rupert Sheldrake, who was looking at things like he's one of the fellows who came up with epigenetics. But at any rate, it seemed like they would have some creature, some being, a bug or a rat or something, that would learn that would be taught a new skill, and it would take them, let's say it took them 3 months to learn this skill. And then have somebody on the other side of the world, had no contact with it, not even the same source of rats, anything, completely separate. And once the first group was done, and in 3 months they had learned this, and of course, after a while, 3 months, the whole process of getting better and better at it. So say it took 3 months for them to actually be able to do it, regularly. The next group in a completely different part of the world, it would only take them like 2 months. One after that, 3 weeks. Before it was the learning curve had shrunk. It's as if something transferred over without anything seeming to connect it. Now, the interesting thing about that is they also did it with crystals, because crystals take a certain amount of time. And make all sorts of different kinds of process. And the process by which the crystal was made, they tried it on crystals, and the same thing happened. It wasn't even just like an entity, a conscious being like us. It was like crystals formed faster. There is a real, honest-to-God conscious field. It's not the quantum fields. They're actually, they keep looking for the unified field, and it's like the unified field is the one they're looking for the unified field. It's consciousness, and the notion, the illusion of separation, is actually breaking down, and the evidence for it is popping up. It's popping up all over the place, even in scientific communities. It hasn't bubbled up to the mainstream, which is still under the control of the ego. So it is still, it's still in the story, taking sides. It's completely steeped in delusion and broadcasting that delusion. But we don't need control of the radio or PV stations. We don't need control of the internet, because that work that you do, just like the rats, just like the rats. If it takes you 6 months to get to a breakthrough, or 2 hours to get to a breakthrough, somebody's going to get that breakthrough in less time. And in fact, even all the various techniques, because I've had the personal experience of working with people and stuff that would take 15 years of therapy disappear in one session. The whole process is speeding up to match the instantaneousness of consciousness. And so don't mind the comparison with rats. But as long as I'm on the subject of rats, just to give them a little bit of, a pat on the back, and also give us a bit of humility. The experiments they've done with rats are really very fascinating. They love chocolate chips. For whatever reason, they love chocolate chips. And the one experiment they did, they wanted to test empathy. They were looking for empathy. And so they put a rat in a nice luxurious cage with things to do and chocolate chip rewards, right? So that they get rewarded and stuff. And adjacent to it was another cage, very small and compact, very uncomfortable, nothing in it. And there was a rat in there that was obviously in very high distress. And the rat that was in the luxury unit learned how to hit the switch that would let the rat out of the cage. First off, it wanted to do that. It wanted to let it out of the cage. The amazing thing, though, because the chocolate chips were for the reward for hitting the lever to get him out of the cage. That the rat in the big cage saved some chocolate chips to give to the rat that got let out of the cage. They were not expecting that. We would call it a humanity. I just call it, there's a love in the life force, and it's in absolutely everything. And we have to overlook it. We have to become cut off from it in order to have things like animal agriculture and the like, to treat everything like a commodity. And, pretty much up to recently, in a lot of places even recently, women were a commodity. They were a piece of property, right? I mean, they are in the Bible. They are property, and regarded as such. So we're on the verge. Right? Don't lose heart. Don't lose faith. Even faith is when you're convinced of something, even when you don't see it. Right? It's going to be seen. It's going to happen. I'm hoping I see it in my lifetime. I hope I live long enough to see it. I may not, but I will die quite content that I have contributed to it. So thank you for that, to inspire me there. Let me move this over here so it's easier to reach, and I don't keep bumping the mic. Yeah, Lisa, thank you for mentioning that. You gave me my subject to speak about today. Oh my God, that did go on, didn't it? Well, yeah, actually it was several minutes at the beginning when I wasn't here. So, hello everyone. Hello Rosario. Hello Lisa. Very cold in the UK. There's David and Elaine, also in the UK. Hey, Brent. This is where everybody said, Brent, you okay? Are you okay? Eva Kuhulika. Good to see you. Good to see you. Namaste to you. And then Lisa, how's Brent doing in LA? Yeah. Looks like Armageddon out here. We're safer on the east side. So glad to hear that. Yeah. Wow. Yes. You can pray. You can pray. It's not ineffective. It doesn't even have to be well done. It doesn't have to be, pre-described or anything like that. Just the desire. I mean, desire is prayer. Simple as that. Right? Our job is to make those prayers, purify them, which means take the selfishness out of them. Make them more about, yes, I really would like this. It feels like I really need this, but I turn it all over to you. Yeah, we would literally like to see the world healed. And I turn it all the way over to you. All of it, all the way over to you. Right. It's a beautiful, beautiful image in the Garden of Gethsemane with Christ struggling over doing just that. Right? Lord, Father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me, but not my will, but thine be done. Boy, what an attitude that would represent in our own lives. Yeah, I don't know why this is here. Maybe here for a reason. I don't like it. I wish it would go away, but not my will, but thine be done. All right, time for another story. Sorry about this. I've told this story a lot. Maybe some of you have heard it, but it is so beautiful. It's about the avatar Rama. Any of you are not familiar with Rama, he's one of the major avatars of India. One of the first, very early in the writings, part of the whole cultural history and mythology of India, his story. The other great avatar you probably all do know is Krishna, but Rama was before Krishna, thousands of years or something, I don't know. Anyway, he's an avatar, which means he's a God-man, right? He's part God, he's like Christ, right? God, part human, a God on earth taking on human form. So he's living a human life, and he's a God. So he's out one day doing his God thing, and his particular human life at that particular time, he was a hunter, right? And became a warrior and eventually a king, and the whole story. It's a great story. Great love affair story too, Rama and Sita. This story's got everything. It's got romance and it's got adventure. Anyway, he's out doing his avatar thing, human thing out there in the forest, and he stops for a while to rest himself by a stream. He sets down his bow. He sets down, lays his arrows all on the ground, and it just kind of relaxes there for a minute. And after resting and refreshing himself, he gets ready to go, and he gets up, picks up his stuff, picks up the bow, and he picks up the arrows, and he notices that on the head of one of the arrows, there's some blood. He brushes away some leaves, and there's this little frog with a wound in its head. And he picks up the frog. Remember, he's a god, right? And he says "Little frog, why didn't you call out to me in my distress?" And the frog says to him, talking frogs back then, right? He says, "Lord, I always cry out to you in my distress. But when you cause the distress, to whom do I cry out? I accept it as your will." What would it be like if we could all just accept the events in our life as the will of God for our benefit, and let go of the suffering? Now that doesn't eradicate the inquiry. It doesn't eradicate our need to kind of often get to the bottom of emotional suffering. But if we see that the events of life themselves are not the cause of our suffering, but our refusal to submit to them in any way, our ideas that somehow it should be different, but instead just go, "Oh, not my will, but thine be done," suffering would vanish in an instant, because there's nobody there to suffer. The sufferer is the one who is resisting. If that consciousness is shifted, transformed into the one who has surrendered, the suffering is left behind with the one who is resistant. And it's like that. It's not a you who is suffering who now becomes a you who is not suffering, or a you who is resisting and that you surrenders. It looks like that, because there's this continuity that we experience. But what actually happens is the one who is resistant dissolves, and the one who is surrendered appears, because that's closer to the truth, which finally does appear, which is the one to whom we have been surrendering the whole time. The totality of the you surrenders, and the only thing left is the one to whom all the surrendering is happening, and you are that. So, hope you enjoyed my little story. If it was a repeat, I hope you enjoyed it on the repeat. I hope it was worth hearing again. So, Eva loves the music before tea. Thanks. Lisa, so much love and prayers for all affected. Yeah, all of us. Ouch, beautiful music. Beautiful. Oh, thank you, Ida. Oh, Mary likes the music too. I guess I should make some of my meditation music available to folks. Yeah, I've actually had quite a bit of it. I just never put it out anywhere where anybody can get it. But oh, maybe I should do that if folks are interested enough. Yeah. CM's got her tea. Good to see that. Great. Let's see. Joseph's got his tea. Got my G waiting for tea. Hendrik, wonderful to see you. There's Ali. Mary says, I heard California, a small earthquake this morning as well. Yeah. The whole earth is shaking, ready to be born. Yeah. There's a statement from St. Paul about that. I can't think of it right now. But anyway, there's Fatima in Slovakia. Savvy. Absolutely devastating. 2 hurricanes back to back this year in Florida. Now the wildfires in California. My heart goes out to all those who lost loved ones, pets, and homes. Very sad. Yes, it is. Yeah. So your work, yeah, the dark side will not. Too many are awakening since the pandemic. Yeah, it obviously awakened. That opened a lot of eyes and minds. Yeah, not closed a lot of them too, but yeah, even the pandemic, all of this is just basically the shit being pushed up to the top so it can be released. It is just happening on a global scale. Yeah, that is what's happening. Right? But of course, look for yourself. Look for yourself. Take everything I say for checking until you see it for yourself. That you see the undeniable correlation between the work you do on yourself and the process by which it happens and what's going on in the world, and you'll get it. It's like, okay, yep, absolutely. That is what's happening. Savvy said, I got the audiobook you and Jay were speaking about. Ah, yes, After the Ecstasy, the laundry. Very good thus far. It's very, very helpful to anybody who's on this path. After the Ecstasy, the laundry. It's by Jack Kornfield with a K. An amazing teacher, great storyteller, and the book is totally engaging. And for anybody who's got this romanticized, idealized idea, that you're awakening and it's all rose petals and angels and people running in the forest with chiffon. Boy, does it blow that illusion away. After the ecstasy, the Kundalini experience, or the plant medicine, or the laundry. Everyday life. Because even the peakest of the peak experiences is an experience, and it will pass. We need this practice, this path is about finding and abiding with that which does not pass, that which does not come and go, be it misery or ecstasy. And that's where the real path is, because that which is always here, that which is not coming and going, is you. It's kind of obvious. I'm here. I've been here the whole time. When I was 5, living the life of, I was here. 15, 25, I still here. Haven't gone anywhere. 72, still here. Yeah. Always. It's always you. You are what you've been looking for. And it's, yeah. So anyway, love the book. There's my book review for today. Thanks to Ali. Thank you. Sheldrake. Sheldrake, he's not Rupert Spira, he's the non-dual teacher. It's Rupert Sheldrake, who is a scientist. One who, like many, has become convinced that it is consciousness that is at the root of of all of this, and not a bunch of material structures. Let's see, Zephyr. Hello, Zephyr. Zephyr with waves. Upside down stop sign and waves. HM Light. Joseph. LOL. Oh, there you are. Alvaro. GP, looking forward to you on your meeting. I couldn't be the last day. Just wondering if you saw me. Yes, I did. Sorry, I haven't responded to it. Yep. And yeah, and I'll get you. We'll bad me. We'll get you set up there, and also in the EFT class. So anybody else who wants to join into that? Do I have something for the Sangha? Let me see real quick. I'll take you to the page to register. Yes, it does. Look at that. Okay, back to here. So yeah, I guess I do. I'm just going to type it in though. Right? Anybody who's interested, wants to join, get a week for free. If you're going to go in the EFT class though, I work out a completely different deal. It is my self-inquiry Sangha, NGHA, and that I do once a week, every Wednesday. It's like $47 a month to join, so it's it's cheap, and we do the inquiry. Sometimes we go into some emotional healing if it's necessary. I have done that during that, but I have other things completely dedicated to emotional healing. But the self-inquiry Sangha, the focus is being as precise and thorough as we can into the non-dual self-inquiry. And the advantage is I actually get to sit there, you and me, on the screen, and I can interact. I can see more that I can take some time. Right? With here, I get a question, I can answer it. There, we can dive in together and go to those places in us that are blocking the view as to who you actually are. Let's see. Hendrik. Oh, Ella. Hello. From grateful me for every message you bring. Oh, thank you. Very, very touching. Yeah. Rats and frogs. Huh? Yeah, sorry. Lord knows. Look, the synapse fire, I go. That's it. Yeah, that's it. I don't question. I just go. I always do what the little voices tell me to do. Carl, GP, I have a long way to go to reach your level of acceptance. Your stories today of our Lord makes me feel that the Lord higher self has sadistic tendencies. No. What we can't accept is the notion that somehow human life shouldn't be this idyllic thing where everything's working the way I want it to work, like that. Where did that come from? It's supposed to go the way I think it's supposed to go. We don't want to face the fact that in order for us to have experience at all, you must have the full range of opposites. For light, there must be dark. Otherwise, it cannot be experienced. For the ecstasy, there must be misery. For joy, there must be sadness and grief. There has to be that experience. So we cling to the joy, and so when the other comes your way, which it must, and the joy departs, which it must, because these are all in a flow. They are all temporary. They're all constantly changing. We say this shouldn't be happening. God's sadistic. No, ain't so. This is what happens, and the whole point of our human life is to accept that as it is and transcend it. There's a place that is not the opposites. that it is witnessing of the opposites. Because how can you see the opposites at all unless you're standing in a place that is outside of the opposites? When you're in a car or on a train, right, there's no sense of you don't feel as if you're moving. Right? The things are going by, and so we think we're moving. But I used to fly airplanes. I have my pilot's license, just private, never commercial or anything like that. And I remember those times at night, some spectacular, when it was just really dark, right? Couldn't really see much. Some lights here and there. The lights underneath me, actually over the San Francisco Bay, I was flying, and because it was dark, there were no points of reference. I was going about 180 miles an hour, and I had no sense of motion whatsoever. I was just sitting in darkness, completely motionless. That's what I was experiencing. Right? And yet at the same time, all of this stuff was going on. There is a place in us that is absolutely still. There has to be, because that is the fulcrum, the point around which all the motion can happen. You can't detect the motion unless you're at a point still, at least relative to the thing that is in motion. So we can't taste the depths of love until we've experienced pain, rejection, broken heart, hatred, anger, resentment. We can't. And then you find there's a place greater than all of it where there are no opposites. It's the opposite of everything. That makes no sense, right? And not nothing. It is everything and nothing. It exists and does not exist. It cannot be described. It cannot be put into words. You cannot do anything about it except the recognition that that is you, that is where you are standing, and that is what all of this is emanating from. Then God, which is you at the center, isn't sadistic. That this is what must be there in order for experience to happen at all. And the paradox is that when that is actually seen, and the sense of self that is clinging to the good side and trying to get rid of the bad side, or utterly resistant, is not you. That's just a character on the screen. The character disappears, and what happens is everything on the screen harmonizes. The opposites are no longer sadistic, or they're no longer a punishment or a blessing. They in fact all become the manifestation of the self in harmony. And you find there is only good, there is only love, but for love to be manifested, it has to appear against the background of some opposite. In all the different ways it can. The key to going beyond, the real nirvana, is finding that which is not changing. From that perspective, everything starts to make sense. From the perspective of somebody who wants this but not that, there will be a conflict between it all that doesn't actually exist in reality, but is being created by the position of, I want this, I don't want that. That is the sadist. And the masochist. Yeah, both of them, all rolled up into one. You don't have a long way to go. Stop thinking that. Who's this one? Yeah, Carl? Oh, it's Carl. Yeah. You do not have a long way to go. You don't have a long way to go to get to yourself. Right? Yeah. What I'm trying to preach here and teach here is it isn't a path to get you somewhere. It's a path that takes away everything that is hiding from you what you already are. It is so. Even the thought, I have a long way to go to reach your level of acceptance. If you believe that, you manifest or become the I that has a long way to go, and you will then be walking on a path that has a long way to go, and that's totally an illusion, created by the belief in it. Because you don't have any distance to go whatsoever to be you. Obvious. That's obvious. So put all the attention on the sense of being disconnected from yourself, separated from what you can't possibly be separated from. And then notice the sense of I, the sense of identity, that because of experiences has interpreted this to mean I have a long way to go. Is that I real? Is it truthful? Can you depend on it? Is it reliable? If it's truthful, it will be there all the time. And it will have been there your whole life, which means, you're 5 years old. God, I got a long way to go. It would. Otherwise, it's coming and going like anything else. And the I, the one who believes that, is also coming and going. Because there was a time you didn't even think about it. There's nothing, that I was not having a long way to go. I mean, you're playing with trucks or something, right? Or, just figuring out how you can get the date. You weren't, it wasn't there. Which means it is not permanent, it's not real. The thing to get, what's important, and really the centerpiece of this path, is it's not an I that is now going to have a different way to reach it, or an I trying to realize that it is it. The I itself is the issue. And you are not the I that believes it has a long way to go to reach my level of acceptance. I didn't reach it. The I that felt separated dissolved. Not completely. It's not gone yet. I'm not a Buddha. Yeah. I'm on the path, just like you. I'm a bozo on the bus, just like you. But it's very clear what the path is. It's very clear at this level of investigating the I. Right? This I that we're so convinced is us. That's the culprit. That's Maya. That is the great illusion. And that sense that wants to pull us into identification is this very subtle energy we need to become aware of. So, thank you for that question, Carl. It really let me go and riff on a more quintessential teaching. Yeah. You are not who you think you are. Find out who you actually are. The one you actually are doesn't have anywhere to go. You're it. And you've been it the whole time. Because even now, as you say, I have a long way to go, isn't all of that, the words, the feeling, the belief, all of it, isn't it being perceived? Well, pay attention to the perceiver, because that's not changing, is it? That picture on the screen, the I, the belief, the distance, those are all changing. But the perceiver of all of it, is that changing? Find that. And you're home. JV, for some reason I was hoping this was just going to be a tea kettle whistling in the key of G. I can't whistle very well. Yeah, my dad could, but yeah. Annoyed my mother terribly, which I think is why he did it. Anything to get a rib in. Let's see, Sevi. I always remember the sentence from the Big Book of AA. Pain is the touchstone to all spiritual growth. I would actually amend that a little bit. I'm very grateful I learned this at the beginning of my spiritual journey. Yes, it's true. But I want to amend it a little bit, because we think somehow that we're going to escape from human pain, which would mean that somebody really close to me dies and I won't feel anything because that's painful. It's a subtle difference, but what the real essence, what pain points us to find a relief to pain. Of course it does, right? We make a whole lot of really stupid choices trying to find the relief to that because we don't know what the actual cause is. And then looking closer, we find there is a difference between pain and suffering. That pain is a part of life, just like pleasure is. Grief is just as much a part of life as is joy. You cannot separate them. But suffering, that's different. That's different. Suffering is all in how we have been programmed, trained, and enculturated to respond to the pain and the pleasure. Grab onto the pleasure, try to not let it go, try to get rid of all the pain. Which, of course, is absolutely impossible because you cannot have one without the other. But you can be free of suffering because that isn't a part of the thing. It is an overlay on it, created by the false sense of identity that puts itself in a position of disagreement with the way things actually are. No, they should be different, right? Or tries to explain it, right? That God did this and we're sinful and we're fallen, and eventually when we die, if we follow the rules to the letter or believe the way we're supposed to believe, then we're going to get the reward of this perfect place where there is no pain for the rest of eternity. These are all the ways in which we simply avoid that this is the reality of it. And then, when you do that, even a little bit, you don't have to be a Buddha to do this. You probably have all even experienced it. I know many of you who have been in my classes have, that when the resistance to it is gone, suddenly the pain isn't so painful. That the pain of life is actually amplified by the fear of it and the resistance to it. It's bigger than it actually is. That at the root, the pain usually, it's always less than that. Sometimes it even goes away completely. Other times, there's an equanimity there. There is a surrender there that will sometimes actually even heal whatever it is that's causing the pain. But will make one be so present with it that some enormous benefit comes out of it. And there are many people who have been very grateful. The illness that they got, these severe illnesses, they were grateful because it shook them up. It restructured their priorities. It just made them appreciate life like they had to let go of the way they think things should have been. It's kind of similar to when people have near-death experiences. Suddenly all of this is gone and a whole new context comes about. And it's like, well, sure, yeah, I do want to go back. Sometimes not. Sometimes, no, I don't want to go back, right? But how about we do that before we die or have a near-death experience or have some major illness? How about, just say, oh, I get it. You can go in, go in the door through suffering, or you can go in the door through surrender. You can go in through devotion, or you can go in through Vedanta, through wisdom. Right? Once you're wise enough, you don't need these things happening over and over and over again. And the stuff that does happen that's unavoidable in life, there'll be just an equanimity that goes through it, including getting old. And everything that comes from it. Okay? It's inevitable. The little kid wants to grow up and want to have all the freedom and stuff of adulthood, and maybe really enjoys all the freedom and the fun and the extra pleasures and the like. And eventually, I don't want to get old. You want to stop the process, right? There's even some crazy lady Christian who claims God has taken her and shown her heaven, and it is. You get a nice svelte body back, and everybody looks, hot and thin, and you can eat whatever you want, and you just look great all the time, which is weird because there's no sex there, according to her. So what's the point of looking good again? Exactly, what's it? But anyway, you can see that it I don't know how I got off on that. But the idea of heaven is this place where it's everything is the way I want it, right? It's just perfect for me. Heaven and hell are states of mind. You can make a hell or heaven. It's all in your hands. You can make a god or a devil. It's all in your hands. Yeah. Zephyr. It's a dots sign, actually. Not quite sure what you are referring to back there, but a dot sign. All right, well, press on. Hey, Peter. Hey, Peter in Italy. Yay. I had no idea it would take so long. Well, compared to what? Right? It took so long compared to what? Maybe it just took as long as it needed to and still is. And it was going along at exactly the right place, and it's not too long or too short. Everything brings you to the next place, That's the path, folks. That's walking on the path. That's what it means. First sentence in the book, The Road Less Traveled. Life is difficult. That had a great impact on me. I thought only my life and a certain few lives were difficult. I was young and naive then. Yeah. I grew up in the Midwest of the U.S., which is a very weird place because, life is, in the Midwest, life is difficult, very difficult, and then you die. Very hopeful. And then there's this, the promise of heaven in the future, and then the new thought Christian churches, which other Christians don't think they're Christians, in which it's all in your mind, right? The new thought, which is kind of the Course in Miracles, and you can manifest all these things, which then shows up later as the law of attraction and all of that kind of stuff. That I can make this the heaven that I want, right? Because this is what's supposed to happen, and not this. Oh, now I've got this power. I can make that happen without any regard for the ego or love or tenderness and compassion. Just completely disregards it. It is. People often say that, we'll quote the Buddha as saying, life is suffering. That's not actually what he said. It's not what he put. He says there is suffering. Life does not inherently involve suffering. Right? If you are the way we kind of use the words with pain, there's a subtle difference, but of course, the difference in definition is all in usage. But the animals in the wild don't really suffer in the way that we suffer, because they're completely tuned to the environment, and they respond to the environment. Yes, they know fear, they know pain and the like, but there's nothing in them to say this shouldn't be happening that would cause a psychological rift that would create suffering, because we say that and we live our entire lives clinging and pushing away and finding we can't do it, so we try harder and different ways of doing it, because we think life is somehow supposed to accommodate and conform to my personal needs. Well, the animals don't have that. They don't have that. And it's really interesting when you see documentaries and the like of the kill, right? The cheetah gets the gazelle, right? Which he must do to survive, as the gazelle must get away to survive. And there's a point, and it happens actually in every critter, sometimes in humans, usually not, because we're so resistant to the whole idea. But there's a moment that there's all the struggle, everything's going on to try to get away, and then all of a sudden you just see it go, and completely surrender to it. You may have even seen it in your pets. Right? They know their time is coming, and they just go off somewhere and they let it happen. Now that's just animals in the wild. Animals in captivity are completely different. They have the same, they know something's wrong, right? If they're the lion in a cage pacing back and forth, is because he's supposed to be walking around a lot, and he can't do it. Or the whale in the swimming pool. They're suffering because they're not, they don't have the opportunity to be themselves. That is in fact what we're all suffering from. And we think that that's going to somehow be ameliorated when I get things the way I want them. And even if we did, it's not enough, and we keep going. And most of the time we can't, and we just keep struggling at it, because that's not really what we want. We want the freedom to be ourselves. And the freedom to be yourself can't come from anything in the external world. It must come from here. We must go back the way we came, removing everything that isn't you until you get to the gold, which is you. It's a process, can take some time, but once you know how to do it, it is the direct, most direct, and the final path. Because there's no more distractions, there's no more detours, no more cul-de-sacs you get stuck in. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, that's what I teach people how to do. Walk that path back. And it can feel treacherous, because there's a lot of things that don't want you to walk that path back. They want to keep you up here, both internal and external. But once you settle into it, this is it. Yeah, this is it. And at some point along the line, you realize that this is the final path. Everything I've done, all these other things, this is it. No, there aren't no more things. This goes all the way. So, John Lovell, I sure do hope that you all are having morally right Christians. And I hope with all my heart that you're not. Oh yes, very very funny. See, the popularity of law of attraction got us all confused. Yeah, as I was talking about, I actually Then I caught that out of the side of my eye because it says we can get everything we want, manifest the life we want. You can have it all. So we can't accept when it's not the way we want or expect it. Yes, and I don't think I have to. It's not a long stretch, right, to assume that you know for a fact that in those times I can't get what I want and I'm supposed to be able to get it what I want. I suffer. And I blame myself for it, and I try hard, and I do everything they tell me to do, and it doesn't work, and I say it doesn't work, and they say you didn't do it right, it's all your fault. Oh man, same old shit. Original sin in the back door. Yeah. You don't need to. Life will take care of you when you stop fighting it. As David Wright, David Wright? I think I got the name wrong. Stephen Wright said so beautifully. He says, you can't have it all. Where would you put it? Sam, when is it responsible to don the I and remove the I? Is there ever a time when interacting in the world that I should be worn explicitly? Is being without I always sociably viable? Also looking great, GP. Thanks, Sam. We always enjoy those comments. It's like, take the pose. Oh, what I need is like a little, a sophisticated shot of like cognac or something. I used to do things for commercials. The question, sorry, this is such a great question, Sam. So wonderful. And it is one of the places that I really have focused to kind of break down the barrier between the I that appears to be acting in the world and the I that you truly are. And it's very, very subtle, and it takes some time for it to really become clear how it works, which is why I teach classes about it, right? And and that is the finding that flow between the absolute and the relative is the point. There's a lot of non-dual teaching that says that somehow thinks you get into the absolute and you get rid of the relative. Well, doesn't that sound kind of dualistic? That's not non-duality at all. The absolute and the relative are not two. Dual and non-dual are not two. What? Isn't that the I? What actually happens is life and all of its interactions, right? Everything you're experiencing right now, all of it, the ups, the downs, the successes, the failures, the romance, right? The family, the relationships, all of that, right, isn't a problem. It's innocent, right? The I that needs to be removed is the belief in a particular person for whom it is their life and these things are happening to, and come back to the absolute perceiver, the ultimate, the true I, that is the one who's actually experiencing everything in life. And when that happens, the little I disappears, but the individuality does not. The form through which the true I is manifesting itself has also become liberated. So the sense of I, now not identified and tied to a particular I, moves very fluidly through the world. Because no, you don't show up you don't show up, well, you show up without an I, but that doesn't mean you show up and what? The form is still constantly morphing and changing, taking different shapes. You show up as, as friend, as lover, as employee, as employer, right? I show up as grandpa, right? I've got two beautiful young granddaughters, and I've got a grandson, right? I was about to go into pre-med here, maybe even here at University of Washington, so I'll get to see him more because he lives down in Phoenix. So when I'm with them, I'm grandpa, right? Kinda. Well, because the other one, the older one, I inherited through. So but we have established a really beautiful relationship, even though I'm not his biological grandfather. So that's a different relationship. The relationship I have with the 3-year-old granddaughter is different than the one I have with the 8-year-old granddaughter, which is different with all the people in my life. All of them are slightly different, right? Some of them are very, very close to me, right? That are just like right here in my, the ones that are just for me, right? And then there are those that are just every day, and students I have a very close relationship with, and I'm very different there than I am with my granddaughters and my sons and their wives and the people I meet all the day and the other people who live in this house that I live in, and all very, very different. And something shows up, a sense. It's not an I that shows up. The form changes to be present appropriately in that circumstance with those people. If I showed up as the spiritual teacher doing non-dual inquiry with my 3-year-old, how far you think I would get? I show up as, I'm on the floor. We're playing with dolls and Legos, and we're trains, right? Right? Now, but when you don't have a sense of being stuck in an identity, you realize that the forms that are taken are coming and going constantly, and you're free to all of them. You know when to be angry, right? And protect and say absolutely no further, and a boundary. And many people you need to do that with, but you don't become an angry person. You are the free, formless I that takes form in any manner necessary. And when you are freed from the sense of I as identity, the exactly right form shows up for every circumstance. And for me, exactly right means it's the form that gives voice, presence, to the most love possible in that situation. But it's always absolutely dead nuts on. When you're not, when you don't have a sense of identity, if you do have a sense of identity that this is who I am, I'm like this, and then that identity showing up socially, right, is only going to be able to, it won't have access to any other resources. So it's just going to always be trying to impose itself on the circumstance, trying to change it so it fits in it, or else get really shy and pull back from it because it can't deal with it. It doesn't have the access to it. The sense of I has been compressed into this, what you can now call the person, right? Rather than just the form, which is the manifestation of the self, you have the person projected on the manifestation, right? That cuts itself off from the totality of the manifestation and then feels rightly, I don't have, how do I do this? How do afraid or aggressive or whatever it needs to be. So every situation you show up in, like as I am right now, and totally I'm there, but when all of this, turns off, I say goodbye, I close the screen, I turn off the lights, then it's just me. There's just nothing, no one. And then Make something to eat because my body's hungry. I've got some other things I want to do this afternoon. I'm going to be talking with a close friend later today, and none of them are me. All of them are me. Some simply because in some relationships and in some circumstances, even some groups, like in the sangha that I do, we've created a very safe space. So there's more freedom to be you. There's those things kind of come down, and you now can get used to not being stuck in a form, and it then eventually, spills over into the rest of your life. So the quality of relationships is part of it as well, until you come to recognize that who you really are isn't caught in any of it, but is present in all of it. Right? And we all have. I mean, the real essence of a romantic relationship is a place where you can be 100% yourself. That's what it's about. And if you can't, there's something wrong, and you need to get on it, right? Otherwise, at some point, it'll fall apart. But if you can recognize that it's really about becoming free to be yourself, and that's mutual, it can sustain. It can be potentially could be a love affair your whole life. The strictly non-dual absolutist approach completely disregards relationship. They're not important at all. They're illusory, like everything else. They're only illusory if you project a self on them. Otherwise, they are this self. That is a finite, false sense of self onto them. Look at all of human life, right? One of the best examples the best metaphors I can think of is the mirage in the desert. The non-dualist would say, none of it exists, it's all an illusion, it's all a mirage. More accurately, there's a mirage, water, right? There's a desert, there's sand, it's hot, I'm sweating, I'm thirsty, I'm getting really, really tired. There's heat. The waves of heat are arising from the sand, creating these disturbances in the air. And I see a mirage, water there, and I go for it. The desert's real, the mirage isn't. There's no water there. The desert is actually here, but the illusion projects on it something that isn't here. All of human life is the self made manifest. The essence from which it is emanating and the emanation are one. They are not two. Not an absolute and relative, not a divine and a human, and not a sacred and a profane. They are one. Right? The idea, the belief, the maya, the great illusion is a somebody who is there, and that's actually being projected onto what is actually here. That's the mirage. The ego, the sense of self, the sense of an I am this or that. That's the mirage. There's nobody there. Everything else, it's here. Enjoy. Nastaravia. Let's see. Let's see here. Sam continued, wow, surprisingly, that makes really good sense. The removal of the belief is primary. Then the I's true expression arise, uniquely met with yes, you're no longer stuck, right? Thanks so much. I'll meditate. Also, you taught me that the Buddha mind can code more than a year ago. Knowing this has made my journey in dealing with earth and logic fantastically more sensible. I'm now freelancing as a programmer. I did that for a long time, actually since 1984, before I finally started my own company in life. But anyway, we'll send you a check when my manifestation practice beats my... No, I got the sarcasm. I told you it was there. It was very clear. Yeah, yeah. If anybody wasn't getting it, it's good they saw it. But I could feel it. I could feel it. Um, yeah, removal of the I. As Ramana Maharshi put it, the I removes the I and yet remains the I. And the word in Sanskrit that is translated in all the Buddhist texts as suffering, and it's actually the same word in Pali, which is the language Buddha actually spoke. The word for suffering is dukkha. Dukkha is the word that gets translated into suffering in all the English texts. Now, dukkha is a very interesting word because it refers to the hub of a wheel that has gotten out of true to the point where the wheel either can't turn at all or with great difficulty. Right? In other words, it's stuck. Suffering is when I get stuck in an identity, this I am this I, which this little thing there, starting with I am the body. Stuck there, everything from the world is perceived like that. All of the rest of the flow, which is the actual nature of life, is now out, not available to that one. And as long as I believe it, I will feel as if it doesn't belong to me. But I'm not him. So to be free of suffering doesn't mean changing anything. It means freeing yourself, pulling your feet out of the mud that has frozen you in a position on the flow that's made it look like this is me, this is who I am. And everything is seen from then, and then you begin to realize you suffer. It doesn't fit everywhere. I can't be the non-dual teacher with my grandkids, or even with any of the fellows I live here, the other guys that live in this house that I'm living in. Waste of time. I show up the way as something. I don't show up as anything. I have no agenda. I just show up and somebody appears. And it's really funny, some of the misinterpretations. People say, ask me about different things. It's hysterical what they project. Yeah. Anyway, great, Sam. Fantastic. And we all got the sarcasm. Let's see. Whoops. That sounds more like hell. Everyone looks good, but you don't satisfy your desire ever. I know. Yes, it is hell. I mean, she's even talking about pizzas the size of tables, and you can eat the whole thing and not get... The right-wing Christian nationalists are insane. There, I said it. They're batshit crazy. Okay. Dangerously crazy, though. Let's point that out. Brent, one of my favorite jokes is Jesus knocking on someone's door. The people inside ask, "Why should we let you in?" And Jesus replies, "To save you from what I'm going to do to you if you don't." Perfect. That's perfect. Yes, there it is. There's the distorted Christianity in the fewest number of words possible. I absolutely love it. Isabel, that reminds me, I'm actually going to be doing a class called Reclaiming God, a workshop for recovering evangelists, fundamentalists, and anyone else who has been traumatized by the loveless religion. If anybody's interested, I don't know if let me see something, if I have something about it. I don't. Shoot, I don't have a link to join. I do have a logo for it, but I don't have a link to join, so I'll put something up here pretty soon, right, about it, because I haven't wanted to do anything other than the non-dual self-inquiry sangha that I've got, and the EFT trainings, immersions that I've got. This is the first time I've actually felt inspired for a very long time to do anything other than those two. I've been really focused there and want to keep it that way. One time I had, I think it was close to 120 different programs and workshops on my learning platform. I was crazy. I whittled it down to like 6 and waited. And a few people said, "What happened to?" And everyone that said what happened to, I put it back. So I'm down to a much more manageable number. But the only new stuff I've been doing has been about non-dual self-inquiry and emotional freedom. And this is the first time I have felt like I've really wanted to address something very specifically. Because I have a lot of students who are in fact recovering from the horrible damage done to them by these extreme right-wing evangelical people who in fact hide behind the Bible and Jesus. In fact, do not love God, they love power, and they want more of it. But have deceived many, right? They will come in my name and deceive many. Do not be deceived. No, we're not. Yeah, not. And I'm just so grateful for those who have come to me for some relief from the brainwashing and the constant fear and coercion that troubles them. But it's, as many here can testify, there is a way out, and it doesn't take a long time. So, Joseph, GP's approval of me is more important than my dad's. That says Brent. Wow, I don't know what he said about that. Non-dual grandpa? I see. Oh God, I missed some things here. Isabel, Isabel she's in both my EFT class and the Self-Inquiry Sangha. Thank you for that perspective on pain versus self-suffering. That's really helpful. Yeah. But let me be really clear, because it gets so easily, people distort it very, very quickly. It doesn't mean an avoidance of pain, nor does it mean that I've got to suffer. It's nothing like that. Right? It just gets everything in perspective. So the pain that you're feeling is just the pain that you're feeling. And there's nothing additional being added on to it. Right? No resistance to it. Because that means all the energy that was going into the resistance can be there for a solution. Right? Whatever that might look like. We don't have to go off, I'm going to make it all go away because that's just more resistance. You're totally present with what is actually here, and that makes all the resources present, which means the true I is present, God is present, love is present, all the stuff needed to bring about whatever resolution needs to bring about. Right? And sometimes the only reason that pain is there is to get you to surrender. And the moment you do, it's gone. Not everything. There's a lot of energy here. There's many, there can be many levels, but the levels are not infinite. They do not go on forever, right? There is an end to this. And the very good news is that you are all on the final path that leads to the end of it. No more tributaries. You're in the river that goes to the ocean. Let's see. Posting with a glass of cognac. I'm watching only for the moments of humor. I'm going to have to do that sometime. I'm going to have to show up. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Tea with G. We're going to be here till about 4 in the morning. And you can catch us every Sunday afternoon. Do the commercial for it. Maybe I'll get more views. Joseph, you're a lucky guy. I'm not sure who's saying that to. I I feel quite blessed, actually. Yeah. Just a lot of things, just of late, coming into my life after a period. Yeah. Yeah, not a lot of things, but I feel very blessed. I feel very, very blessed. It just makes all of the stuff that I've been through in my life, and it's quite a long list. The things that happened to me, the things that I myself did, just brings them all into perspective, and it was worth it. It was worth it. We have to be squeezed by life to surrender. We don't like it. We don't want it. We'll fight it as long as we can until you just run out of moves. It's like God locks all the doors, blocks up all the windows, right? Paints the floor. You are in the corner. There's no place left to go. And oddly enough, for some reason, you just surrendered. Got nowhere to go. You surrender. Here, you take it. Not my will, but thine be done. And magic happens. Not necessarily right away. And the things that can happen that lead up to that moment, you can resist and fight and push away. You can try all the manifestation techniques, every technique. I don't care what it is, even tapping, whatever it is, and none of it will work. Because they've done their job. They brought you here, and now it's time for the big squeeze. But all it's really doing is basically squeezing the toothpaste out of the tube, because inside the tube it's like this, but it's a little bitty hole you got to go through before you get out. Oh, look, it's a big world. The snake molting its skin, right? And when a snake molts its skin, it's not like a zipper, zip, and it comes off and you hang it up. I mean, it just comes off in pieces and parts, and the snake actually has to go through really tiny places and rub up against, rough spots and the like, so it actually all comes off. That's more like the process of spiritual awakening. But the good news is that you didn't choose it, you didn't start it, and you're not doing it. It's pure grace. We think, I'm doing it, I'm walking the path, I'm doing a good job, and you're not doing any of it. It is all pure grace. Nostrovia. Geez, come on now, I can't. You're getting good at Polish. Oh, yeah, really. Okay. I am a Kali Bhakta. How do I stop obsessing over men? By accepting the fact that even though you are a Bhakta, you are devotional to Kali, right? Which means you completely surrender to Kali. Surrender all the desire. First, own it, right? You're a woman. Inherent in the female body, female bodies that are attracted to men, there can be female bodies that aren't, and it is natural, right? It does happen, it's part of nature, it's like everything else. Yes, it's real. Anyway, but you're not, you're a Bhakta, so you are obsessing over men. What's actually happening is the absolutely natural feelings that are going to be there in a woman for a man, all of it, both romantic and emotional, as well as just pure lust, they're all there, except that they're there. Of course they're there. You don't have to get rid of them. They can be there. And they can be there even as you're devoted to Kali, right? And then you will find in that the strength to. I don't know if your path has asked you to make a vow of celibacy. and the like. In which case, just don't disown it. Don't think it's not supposed to be there, right? Because what you're really obsessing over is there's this, I can't have it. Oh, I want to have it. I want it. I can't have it. I want it. Can't have it. I want it. Can't have it. You see, it's just going back and forth. You don't need that suffering. You don't need that inner conflict. Right? So just let it go. Right? I want that, because that's a fact. Right? That's the feeling. Perfectly natural. I want that. And then you can take that as a prayer. And I want this. I leave it to you. Fulfill it in some way, or actually with a man, and its quality and loving and the like. Or you just remove the desire from me, which is fine as well. Right? Or you leave it long enough for me to learn the lesson from it and come to the place of equanimity and accept my humanity, and then offer that up in your devotion. That's what devotion means. I have this. These are my needs. These are my desires. I give them to you. It's not a disowning them. And you don't have to obsess over them. You don't have to do it. You just have to accept what is actually here without judging it or condemning it, because it's here. It's just the way it is. Yeah. There's just this natural, warm desire that is pure, is innocence itself. It's all of these religious ideas we get that somehow we're not supposed to feel that. It's like, too late. The only reason you tell me I'm not supposed to is because I already am. And why would you tell me I'm not supposed to when I'm doing exactly what comes absolutely natural? Because you're trying to control me. Oh yeah, that's what it is. Right? So in the bhakti, it's not a condemnation. It's an invitation to have a focal point where this is the most important. On the path of non-dual self-inquiry, which I talk about, which I did with somebody questioning the I, the path of non-dual self-inquiry cannot succeed without the path of devotion or bhakti. It's called jnana or Vedanta for the self-inquiry, and it's called bhakti or devotion for the path of devotion. Or sometimes tantra, because tantra's tantra's a form of that. The bhakti is different. And so what you see is the inquiry cannot complete itself without that. In fact, it really goes off the rails. The reason why I call out the absolutist folks who teach that form of non-duality, where this is all there is, that's all an illusion, none of it exists, you don't exist, none of this is important, doesn't matter what you do. Which was, somebody used the phrase neo-advaitists, or no, advaitaholics, that was what it was. And what happens on that side inevitably, well, almost inevitably, it's possible, maybe not, but is that they become arrogant, full of themselves. It's very intellectual, and because of that, it's actually a way for them to suppress their feelings, their wounded inner child and stuff, and try to avoid it. And they're usually gaslighting. They're very harsh on other people. They want other people to be subordinate and look up to them and that sort of thing. As my own teacher, Muji, said, talking about the jnana path, that absolutist path, and the devotional path, he says there's a whole lot more arrogance in the absolutist path than there is in the devotional path. Without that devotional path, we will get arrogant. And Papaji, who was Muji's teacher, said, truth cannot come to an arrogant mind. So we need each other. The devotion has to be there. And the devotion to Kali is a goddess who manifests all sorts of amazingly qualities, the really harsh ones, right? And then the other ones, the dissolution of it's really beautiful, but she represents the truth of being. She represents you, who you really are. The ultimate of the devotion is to walk right up to oneness with the object of devotion. And that's as far as it can go, because the devotee just wants to worship their beloved. And so that next step is the thing that breaks down the wall, so you disappear into that, into the object of your devotion. You find that Kali was nothing other. I don't mean it like that. Kali was the representation, the externalization of your own nature, which, because of all sorts of reasons, we became disconnected from. And in that disconnect, felt ourselves separate, and the various paths, like bhakti, or seva yoga, or karma yoga, or jnana yoga, or non-dual, all lead back to that union. And all of these are part of it. And you can't get along, it can't get there without the right mix of them all. So I will talk about prayer, right? And the worship of God, right? But not the worship of a personal, wrathful God that I need to worship, or he's going to beat the shit out of me. Right? Or worse, punish me forever. It's like insane, absolutely insane. It is a God of pure, formless love that is beyond all opposites. It is male and female, right? God is gender neutral. Neither beyond all opposites, which pops up in the various, even in the Abrahamic religions like Christianity. The mystics show up. They show up there that have that sense of a God, and sometimes they suffer for it, and sometimes not. But so anyway, yeah, lovely. That will take away the inner conflict, maybe even the shame and self-recrimination you're doing yourself, because you have the feelings that are inherently human, and you can let go of the obsessing. Right? It's okay to have them. It's okay to have them, and then choose whether you're going to act on them or not. But they don't need to go away, right? And it's okay to think about it. It's okay to want it. And it may very well be possible that on your path of devotion, that a healthy relationship with a man is part of the devotion. You can see Kali in him, right? You can worship each other as manifestations, not as an idol, as an object like that. But you can actually use the humanness in the service of the devotion. There's nothing that says you can't have great relationships and great sex and not become awakened. It ain't so. Nisargadatta was married with 4 kids, I think it was. I think daughters, sons. I don't really remember now. I thought it was sons, but I think there were some sons and daughters. Anyway, 4 of them. Householder, regular guy, nothing special, right? Married and all that. Became one of the greatest sages of all time. So, yeah. Does this help freeing you up there, Udi? Yeah. Does this help kind of freeing up all that energy for you? Getting rid of, just, getting, you don't have to get rid of the obsessing. It'll take care of itself. So it'll just disappear because it won't have anything to feed on. There won't be any conflict, right, that lets it feed on it. So beautiful. And thank you for that, because it really allowed me to give some really, really profound, quintessential teachings about the past, some clarity to it. As we do, we get extreme. This, push everything else away. It's not that. It's an embracing of everything. And from that embracing comes the power and authority to use the human energy towards the transcendent goal. Now humanity is serving the Supreme. What could be? That's the highest devotion. Moody, I'm crying. Thank you. Yeah, you've just been set free. So beautiful. David, thanks for calling the evangelicals what they are. Yeah, that's exactly what they are. Did you mean the batshit crazy, or the lust for power, and using their rather twisted interpretation of the Bible as justification? Well, both are true. Yep, both are true. We'll go with both. Mary Sykes said, "I saw that yesterday, that course about claiming God. I'll sign up for it." Well, I knew you would. Yeah. So everything's kind of slowed down for me late. Beautifully so. It's been quite a ride the last few weeks. So anyway, Jay, there's this truck driver I've been following on YouTube for a while, and he posted a video recently talking about his 2025 goals. One of them was about him spending more time with God. And he was asking fellow fathers advice on instilling the fear of God in their kids, and went on to mention the story about Eli, if my memory serves me right, and the story of Abraham. Eli, wow. God, I haven't heard of that one in a long time. I don't remember the story offhand. But actually, what I want to do in that class, that workshop, I do have a banner for it. Let me show you. No, let me show you. Let me show you what it looks like. Thought it was a great picture. Even though I don't know when it's going to happen yet. I mean, I could get a very long link, because it is ready to sign up. Let me take a quick minute here to answer that. Because the reason I wanted bring this up is because one of the things I wanted to do in the class was to have people bring in Bible stories that we could then look together at them. I'll take it down now because I've gone away. We look at them together and dig in there for a deeper meaning, for a much more spiritual meaning. There is in the New Testament, you see little sparkles of the deeper meaning, especially the idea of the new tongue, where that just speaks in a completely different language. It's not the stuff you see of people doing a bunch of gibberish. Anyway, it is the eye that pierces through the appearance and sees the underlying meaning. So there are some meanings to the stories in the Bible. Like, I can't remember Eli, but Abraham, of course, was the kind of the patriarch of all of the Jewish history, but they're mythological stories. They're stories that are there to inspire contemplation, to look at things. They're the results of people's contemplation. Abraham didn't exist. Neither did Moses. Many of the people didn't. A lot of the prophets did. There's archaeological evidence of it, or at least somebody wrote it, right? Right. There was the name Isaiah. It's all there's people who are spending their whole lives putting all this stuff together, and there's a couple of Bible scholars that I'm really enjoying. Dan McClellan is a new one that I've just discovered. You might want to look him up, who actually listens to videos from right-wing fundamentalist Christians, all this stuff about the Bible, and then going back and correcting it. Well, there's no data to support this. There's no evidence for this whatsoever, right? And he's really good at catching the way they twist things in the apologists. So Dan McClellan, he's a good one. You should look up. I follow that a lot, and I look at those kinds of things to see what is the actual historical evidence for them as real people. Christianity has painted itself in a corner. These guys have painted themselves in a corner anyway, because they say the Bible is inerrant. It's a single voice throughout. There can't make, and it's historically absolutely accurate. This is the way things actually happened. Now, once you make that claim, you got to back it up. And unfortunately, there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that any of it, the vast majority of it, never happened. There are places that are mentioned that actually exist, right? There may be some characters here and there that may have existed. There may have been a character who was a loved king, right? And that became the figure of David, right? This perfect king. Well, not perfect. He had his weaknesses. Just like King Arthur, right? There may have been somebody there, or a group of people serving as a leader in a small group that kind of got magnified into a legend, a mythological character, and becomes King Arthur and the Round Table and this idealized Camelot and this idealized setting. But if you look at it, there's all sorts of meaning in there that you can find. What's the Holy Grail? Well, it's the self. It's the looking inward, right? That's what the quest was for the Grail was. When you try to look at it historically, it's nonsense. The virgin birth looked at as a historical event. It's nonsense. Right? Buddha being born out of the side of his mother. It's nonsense. All of it. Right? If you look at it as a historical fact. But if you look at it through the eyes of the new tongue, through the eyes of the spirit, suddenly there's a deep meaning in it. There's stuff there to be gleaned from it. Moses wasn't actually talking to a bush that was burning and not burning up. It wasn't some guy in sandals with a shepherd's crook standing in the mountain looking at that never happened. But there was, for somebody who wrote that down, an experience of finding the voice of God in the midst of his suffering. That's what the word burning means. You can look it up. It's Hebrew, at least one of the meanings of it. It's mental turmoil. It's burning. This guy who'd fallen from grace, the pinnacle of of life is the Pharaoh's son, falling into a shepherd out in the field, watching a bunch of sheep. No iPhone, right? Nothing, right? It's the hero's journey, the classic journey of the fall. This is Adam and Eve. All if you look at it like that, if you look at it like that, suddenly a very different picture begins to emerge. You don't have to prove any of it historically. You don't have to find the connections to see, is this perfect line starting here going down to there, which it isn't. There are a bunch of things cobbled together, right? Like the first and second chapter of Genesis, God created the heaven and earth in 7 days, right? That's the first chapter. And the second chapter is Adam and Eve being created, right? Put like that so that it looks like a nice little chain of events. Well, we're going to zoom in now on the detail, right? But the differences are like amazing because they're two different authors. Two different authors. And they were both written 500 years apart. They were written 500 years apart. And the Genesis 1 was written afterwards. Genesis 2 is 500 years before Genesis 1. The names of God in it are different, right? The sequence of events is different. I mean, they're not the same. They come. So, okay, there's one creation story, and here's a different creation story, and they have a different emphasis and a different meaning and the like. So that's the stuff I want to explore. And I actually do have, it's a long one, but if you guys are interested in registering it for it, that's the, I haven't made a short one for it yet, but that's a real one. You can sign up for it. I think it's cheap. I think I made it like $50, 2 payments, 25. But I was trying to find a way to make a sliding scale, but wasn't able to do it. But this is, I love exploring this, and I find that when people who have been raised in the extreme, which is the evangelicals, but all of us in the West, right? That is the moral, the ethical, the social kind of foundation of the West. It is that approach to things. It is that relationship with God. So it influences all of us. That's why there are atheists who are Bible scholars, because it has had such an effect structurally on the way we live and think and interact. So it's influencing all of us, right? Whether we like it or not. Some it's crippled, and so I invite everybody to that if you'd like to come. Okay, Moody. Yeah. Fear of God sounds so fucked up. Well, it is. It is. You cannot love someone you fear. You can't do it. I'm sorry. Please. Fear of God's, I love God. I love God because you fear him. You're afraid of what he's going to do if you don't. Right? In fact, you don't love God at all. You love reprieve from the pain, and you want the goodies of heaven. What if God was the same God, one you're worshiping right now, but there was no heaven? There's no great reward for what if there was no hell and there was no great punishment? Would you still love God? Would he still be so important? Would you still be singing to him on Sundays and the like, and donating to his representatives here on earth if there was no payoff? Don't love God. You love what you think God's going to do for you. The true love of God is the love of truth for the sake of truth. You love God because it's God. Period. No big promise of some great thing that's going to happen. Just you love love because it's love. You love truth because it's truth. And that's enough. No more expectations on top of that. If you were given just genuine love, you discovered the truth, what more do you want? You got the bread, Stop asking for avocado toast. Jesus. See, I'm saying, when you say this is the only path, it does feel like that 100% everything else just falls away. I wonder if I'd found your teachings that things in my life didn't happen the way it happened. If I'd found your teachings that destiny is what happens now, Um, no, no. It was lined up in this way for you specifically. And everyone is different. That's why there are so many paths. But they all eventually converge. Many will get you very close. The bhakti path will get you all the way there. Complete and total surrender to God. That's the saint. The saint who says, you ask the sage what they want, they say, whatever God gives me. And there's still this me and God. This is completely devotional. There's no ego left. There's no will of its own. And if no ego, no will of its own, everything it does is God does, then it's literally God acting through them. And the only thing has to be let go of at that time. The last bit to surrender is that there is anyone there at all through which God needs to pass. I give my whole self to God. Me, totally. Now, I'm gone. And all that's left is God. That's why there are so many paths, because it's individual. You can always tell a false path because it's demanding that you follow it. And that they're all wrong. None of them are wrong. They are all absolutely right at the right time. Like the right word said at the right time. Right? A word, a word at the wrong time, depending, could start a war. A brutal war. A word at just the right time can end the war. That's how powerful these things are. So it's all valuable. Wherever you happen to be, God shows up in precisely the right form that you need to see at that time. Guiding you where? Back to herself. Back to the heart. Back to the reality of you. That they themselves, use the gender neutral term, have started. The I came from that I. And then the I to the I am became the I am this or that. The I that removes the I, right, is where that I came from. That's, yeah. It's as far down that hole I have to go. That's kind of it's a big one to get. So forget that I even said that. The jury will strike that from the record. Anyway, I wonder if find it, teach it. Yeah, destiny. Yeah, it had to be that way. But know that it's an act of love and grace. Well, love and grace, same thing. It's an act of grace because it's what you needed, right? And your path is yours and yours alone. This is the beautiful uniqueness and individuality that allows us to embrace and love our human lives as they are, because they are the path. They are the path. Let's see, boy. Let's see. Elian Kashmir. Pure heart's intention will dissolve fear. Divine love is present around the world. Amen. And divine love is the only presence, the only self. The bhakti or bhakta, right at the threshold of God, nothing left but the will of God. That divine love being present, the notion of God as other dissolves. God is a form. God is a thing. And the infinite, boundless, formless love is all there is. And of course, it's infinite. It's everything and everywhere. It's right here. I mean, the infinite includes this. It's not like it's everywhere except here. Nope. So this is it. You are it. And the individuality is not lost. It's just free to transform from one thing to another, and then you find out there's never been a birth, there's never been a death. The experience of past lives and all that has not, it's just been movements in consciousness. Right. Hi, Sylvia. Joseph, beautiful picture. Yeah, I like that one. I like that. Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for your service. You're very welcome, Avalon. Watch a lot of Bible scholars on YouTube. Older myths from civilizations being revised and taken as action. Yes, it happens all the time. They get concretized. And we live in a very literal, concretized, scientific, material world. Everything is, it's a material form of materialism. Literally, it's not true unless I can verify it some way. But these are mythological. They sometimes have some real things happen. Of course, that's the whole purpose, is to help guide us to a higher place, to share the insights, somebody wise within that group or tribe or whatever, with others in the form of story. Right? That's the way it was communicated early, and acted it out, and lots of movements of the hand, and tell lots of stories. Sound familiar? Yeah. And there's a lot of evidence that the Jewish stories had originated from other cultures, because everything kind of interacted before Jews as a particular group emerged with their own distinct characteristics, but they all evolved. They came from somewhere else, brought things with them. The great king could have been the leader in a tribe of 100, right? That settled somewhere, and it's actually beautiful the way it works, because the thing that's clearly illustrated is the unchanging reality of our heart's need to reconnect with ourselves, with the higher. It's there. Right? It's in the cave paintings. It's in the bear caves where they arranged the bones of the bears that were killed for food. You can see this emerging as this recognition that there's something going on here. There's something big's going down. Right? It's so evident. That's what's important, and how people approached it, right? And how people and how they managed to do it and put it into a form that was culturally viable, that is acceptable, that could work within the context of the world in which they were living at the time. Right? And then we sit up here in our world trying to make it fit in. And it's stupid. It's still stupid. Nothing but stupid. So coming to see it in those terms, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't say all religion sucks, get rid of it all, which is an approach a lot of people take. A lot of people coming out of Christianity, seeing through it, go totally to atheism. Some more mythological and the like, and some see it. Rupert Sheldrake went back and joined his the Anglican church that he grew up in as a kid. Because it's a tradition. It's in me. It's part of the deal. And actually, I think it was some guru who said, maybe you should just do that. Go back to where you came from. So he does. He's a practicing Christian, but a real one. Fantastic. And all the faiths have the same essential truth in it. If you start looking for that instead of trying to prove your particular ideology, right? And nowadays it's white supremacy, theocracy, the dominance of others, and authoritarianism. You can read that into the Bible too, obviously. Right? That's the point. They're myths. They're made to be interpreted. Right? And then we claim that my interpretation is the only interpretation. This is exactly what it meant. That's what they meant when they wrote it, and that's who wrote it, and that's the guy. That's it. Show me evidence. Not true. Oh my. Well, enough about that. Oh my, I've gone over here. That's why I appreciate the teachers who teach the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, because they will go into the deeper meaning of these stories and even what some pictures mean, like Krishna and Arjuna on the chariot. What an incredible picture. You have the human self having to fulfill its destiny. You've got the reality, the awakened being, driving the chariot with its 5 horses, which are the senses. The picture is absolutely perfect. It's wonderful. Elian, beautiful. Alchemists we are. Yes. Yeah. You are the alchemist, and you're also the chemical that's being alchemized. That's why it feels kind of it takes there's some chemical transactions happening there. So the body, so the body, the horses, the 5, that's right. I didn't even read that. It's so beautiful. Arjuna, the Krishna. Oh, really? I saw Krishna as being the awakened being, and Arjuna the fulfilling his destiny, right? As the human, as the jiva. Right? So to always look at it, love of God, love of truth. Yes, that's what I choose. Small steps add up. Cleaning and doing simple tasks. All second devoted act. Yes, little stuff. Devote it all to God, right? I gotta change my granddaughter's diaper. Well, the young one's finally out of, she's out of diapers now, right? But, clean the poop in the name of the Lord. It can be. It's because, in fact, that's all there is. That's the embrace. That's the embrace. It's all divine. Yep, even that. It's holy shit. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks as always, G. Much love to you. Love to you too, David and Elaine. Eli's kids were engaging in immoral behavior, and God sent a prophet to warn Eli. Kids continue to do that. Oh my God, they were eating meat and engaging in sex. Probably, but not kosher meat, right? Meat was, right? The same meat, if it wasn't kosher, was in fact you're right. It's more like a loving marriage than it is worship. Worship doesn't, it's not worship. But, word to use, when you're really in love with someone, it's like, it's a worship. It's an honoring. They've transformed your life. Nothing looks horrible after that. When you're in love, that's all you see. It's everywhere. It's like, you're just, you get lost in it. Yeah. The loving marriage. Yeah. My inquisitive nature and the Christianity I was raised in never mixed well. I always felt it was not good fit, but I believed the problem was me until, well, of course it is. You're the sinner. You ate the fruit. It wasn't an apple, by the way. It wasn't anything. Anyway. Daryl Sanders, wow, so shit is holy too. I love it. Well, where do you think the phrase came from? It's in the Bible. I think it's in, Numbers 3 or something. Holy shit. Thank you, Ava. Thank you, everyone. And, come join the class. It'll be a lot of fun. All the things that I have to just, make sure on my mailing list or something like that, or just put comments on any of my videos. I pick them up. I do read them all, right? At least I try to get to them all. I sometimes find that some have slipped through, but at any rate, everyone, thank you so much for being here. It's time for me to not be teacher now, and just feel like a guy hanging out, in the house having something to eat. All right. See you all.